Hello YouTube, Dave here again, and something very interesting has happened to one of my latest videos. So I uploaded the video on Friday, August 25th. I'm recording this just a few hours after that, so it's currently technically August 26th right now. The video in question is my introduction to Dungeon Command. It was just a video that I wanted to do as sort of like an instructional thing, sort of tutorial for actually how to play the game. I wanted to actually start doing a series of videos for it. I had recorded this a while ago, and as you can see, I've actually got two other videos that are scheduled to go up later on, Heart of Cormyr and Sting of Lolth, for their individual unboxings. So what you're looking at right now is the page that I normally use to track my videos when I first upload them. This is just the dashboard page on YouTube, so anybody who uploads videos is probably familiar with this page. I didn't really notice anything unusual. I mean, once in a while I just kind of refresh to see how many views have changed on the video. So right now it's currently sitting at around 165, which is fine. I don't do this to get like thousands and thousands of views. However, I did end up clicking on Video Manager, mainly because I was looking to edit a end card for the Sting of Lolth, like where I put the subscribe button and put up things for other videos. And that's when I noticed this. So for my introduction to Dungeon Command video, it's showing that it's not suitable for all advertisers. And I already submitted a review request, and we'll kind of go over that in a moment. But what I find is interesting is I recorded this at the beginning of the week, so I ended up recording this I think back on Monday, which would have been the 21st, and it was always set to be monetized, and it was always set to being scheduled. In fact, even as late as last night, when I was working on the Sting of Lolth, even as late as last night when I was doing some stuff for the Sting of Lolth video, it was still showing as green. It was scheduled to go live around noon, which is Atlantic time, or I live in Atlantic, Canada, and I'm not quite sure when this happened. I didn't receive any notification. Just kind of going through here. So I don't have anything to say that this was an issue. I didn't receive any emails, which is a little bit frustrating because just yesterday I conducted a survey for YouTube, in which I actually said I thought that they communicated things well, and that didn't end up happening here. So just go into the edit function here. So down in the monetization, it gives you something you can click on saying limited or no ads due to content identified as not suitable for all viewers. I requested a review, like I said, but the issue is that it says right now we are only able to review videos with at least 1,000 views in the past 7 days. We'll review your video once it reaches this threshold. The key thing to me is it looks like it has to be both 1,000 views in 7 days. I don't think it's 7 days from the upload. I think it's just a 7-day period for it to reach 1,000 views from the start of the period to the finish of the period. I'm not quite sure exactly what that means. So what I want to do right now is just click on where it says not suitable for all advertisers, and it goes through the advertiser friendly content guidelines. And I already clicked on a few things, and I clicked on the terms of service, I clicked on the community guidelines, and that obviously doesn't look to be the problem, because if I go into my channel, unless something's changed, 0 community guideline strikes, and I wasn't really worried about copyright, but I was concerned that maybe I did something to violate the community guidelines, but that's still showing zero strikes. So that's obviously not the issue. So it makes me kind of curious as to what the issue actually might be. So just going through, and content that is not eligible for advertising is what I want to look at here. Now, I had a quick look at this. I'm not going to read the whole thing in its entirety, but some of the things here is controversial issues and sensitive events. Now this doesn't fall under that because it's this specifies, the video content that features or focuses on sensitive topics or events, including but not limited to war, political conflicts, terrorism or extremism, death, tragedy, sexual abuse, even if graphic imagery is not shown. So this is kind of like looking at even things that are current events, like as a news or documentary. If you're showing violent acts, then you may not be able to monetize a video, which I totally understand, but the video that I have here is just for a, basically a tabletop board game tutorial. So it doesn't qualify under controversial issues or sensitive events. Drugs and dangerous products or substances, that's not in here either, since this is, again, just a board game. There's no references to, drugs or alcohol or anything potentially, harmful under those lines. Harmful or dangerous acts, which again is something that this doesn't deal with. It says video content that promotes harmful or dangerous acts that result in serious physical, emotional, or psychological injury, which again is not part of this video. Hateful content basically promotes discrimination or disparages or humiliates an individual or group of people on the basis of their race, ethnicity, ethnic origin, nationality, religion, disability, age, veteran status, sexual orientation, gender identity, or other characteristics. Again, this isn't that. It's a tabletop board game, with fantasy elements. It in no way deals with any of those issues. Inappropriate language. I didn't use any profane language in the video. In fact, I'm careful about that to the point where, leave page, I didn't make any actual changes. I think it's on, whoops. Just a second here. Just to prove that, I don't want to even run the risk of having any issues with my videos. Back in January, I live streamed a D&D session with some other people, and essentially in that, wrong page, in that there were a couple of, profanities, obscenities used in the video. Nothing that I would consider to be horrific or, even necessarily, that many. There were enough, though. So when I finally upload it, because it DVRs it first and then processes and uploads usually a few hours later. If you have a look here, I actually took it upon myself to age restrict the video. So this live stream was never monetized because of the fact that I age restricted it myself, because I knew that there was profane language in there. So I can pretty well assure you that I would do the same for any of my videos. So that's obviously not the case once again. So moving down, inappropriate use of family entertainment characters. Videos depicting family entertainment characters or content, whether animated or live action, engaged in violent, sexual, or vile or otherwise inappropriate behavior, even if done for comedic or satirical purposes. Again, it's just a board game with plastic miniatures that don't move. I didn't make any inappropriate gestures with them, so again, there's nothing there that would work. Sexually suggestive content. I'm sort of interested in this one for reasons I'll get to in a moment. But based off of the guidelines here, it says, this video content that features highly sexualized content, such as video content where the focal point is nudity, body parts, or sexual simulations, is not eligible for advertising. Content that features, basically toys or devices, or explicit conversation about sex may not be eligible for advertising. So again, that's not that really either, but I'm thinking something may have triggered this part of it, and I'll explain that in a moment. But the last thing here is violence. So where the video content, the focal point is on blood, violence, or injury, when presented without additional context, is not eligible for advertising. Violence in the normal course of video gameplay is generally acceptable for advertising, but montages where gratuitous violence is the focal point is not. If you're showing violent content in a news, educational, artistic, or documentary context, that additional context is important. So none of that applies to this. I mean, the closest thing you might be able to say, it kind of relates to video game violence. But again, that's generally acceptable, and this is, again, a plastic board game where I don't even think two enemy forces actually physically contact each other. I think they just sat in, adjacent squares. So that's not what happened there. The reason that I'm thinking that it could be the sexually suggestive content isn't because there was anything inappropriate in there, but simply because of the phrase dungeon command. I'm almost wondering if that triggered something based off of those two words together. That's the only thing I can think of, because looking down in the description or the tags that you use to help with, I guess, searches to make your videos show up, there's Dungeons and Dragons, D&D, Dungeon Command, tabletop gaming, tabletop board game, miniatures, D&D minis, tactical board game, card game, and Wizards of the Coast. So all those things I think apply kind of to this game. So again, there's nothing really suggestive, but I'm just wondering if the phrase dungeon command may have had some sort of connotation that the automatic filters are set to pick up. I'm not quite sure. It's interesting that it sat green for monetization for several days until it went live. So to that effect, I want to conduct a little bit of an experiment here. Originally, I had, for the titles of Heart of Cormyr, the unboxing, and Sting of Loth unboxing, I had the title Dungeon Command in there. And I took it out just in case that was what triggered it. So I did already edit those titles, and I'm not going to change that, simply because I don't want to provoke too many strikes. But again, we've got for tags Dungeons, Dragons, Dungeon Command, Dungeons and Dragons, D&D miniatures, miniatures game, tabletop miniatures game, tabletop, tactical board game, tactical, board game separate, the words board and game separate from each other as well. So what I'm going to do is, this is actually supposed to be scheduled to go live on August 28th, which is Monday, so just a couple of days from the time that I'm recording this, although about 2 days and 12 hours. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make this go live, just because right now the monetization is still in the green. So I'm wondering if it's because of the title in the video, or if it's because of the actual tags that are in there, and I did not mean to exit back out there. So I'm actually going to put this live probably for about an hour, and at the end of that hour I'm going to see if anything changes. I'm not going to leave the recording on the entire time, but I kind of wanted to discuss some issues with this system before I cut and come back in about an hour's time. So it is currently live. It is public. It's up, it's available. I don't know why every time I go into the edit screen it counts it as a view. It usually fixes that within a few days. But I'm just going to go to Video Manager and take a look at the status of it. And alright, we just had a second video while I was doing this also get pinged as not suitable for all advertisers, which is this one here, viewer question 4, regrets about my D&D collection. So it's interesting. I'm wondering if this is something that's just targeting all tabletop gaming related content. So Heart of Cormyr hasn't gone through that yet, but this video was uploaded days ago, actually, a couple days ago. So it's interesting that this one is also being flagged. I'm just going to go through. I just want to take a look at any of my other videos. And there was one video that I was really honestly expecting to get that kind of flag that still hasn't. And that's my review of Murder in Baldur's Gate, because the word murder is directly in the title there. But that didn't happen, or hasn't happened yet. So that's interesting. It's interesting that this has happened. I'm just going to go back a couple of pages. I'm not going to go through all the videos, but I do want to check some of my early ones, because they get a lot of views, or have gotten a lot of views. And again, I don't understand quite what's happening here. So let's just go back right to the very beginning. And see here. So my 5th edition D&D review is still in the green, with over 50,000 views. And my other big one is my D&D 5th edition gameplay review, which is at 163,000. no issues there. And everything else seems to be fine. Those were the two ones that I was just starting to get kind of worried about, because those are large source of revenue. This one here, I've actually made that private, so I'm not worried about that one. But it's interesting that this is happening. Now, the reason for my concern is because of the way they handle the review process. And it's concerning to me only from the standpoint of a smaller YouTube channel that isn't necessarily going to be able to defend themselves from this happening. Now, I understand why the advertiser guidelines that they have in place are there. It does make total perfect sense to me, and I agree with a lot of it. Like, I don't think people should be monetizing off of highly inappropriate material, and I totally get that, and I totally understand that. I'm just going to check channel. So I still have 0 community guideline strikes. Now again, I'm sorry, this came up really unexpectedly, so it kind of caught me off guard here. But the reason that I take kind of an issue to this is the fact that the way so again, here we have, and this is actually good because it kind of shows live what it looks like. So it says limited or no ads due to content identified as not suitable for all advertisers. Your video remains fully playable and is eligible to earn subscription revenue from YouTube Red. Advertisers avoid placing ads on videos that don't align with their brand. For example, they may choose not to advertise on content that's sexually suggestive, includes bad language, or is considered controversial. If you think our automated system got this wrong and your video is suitable for all advertisers, you can request a manual review. So let's click on request a manual review, because this is just me talking about books that I bought. There's nothing inappropriate or violent or suggestive about it. So, request review. Right now we are only able to review videos with at least 1,000 views in the past 7 days. We'll review your video once it reaches that threshold and give you a final decision, usually within a week. So I'm kind of curious as to what this means. Does it mean it has to have at least 1,000 views in 7 days, or has to have 1,000 views after 7 days of it being uploaded? I'm not quite sure what this means, but I'm going to confirm that this video is suitable for all advertisers. And let's go under best practices, because I didn't actually focus on this earlier. So it says, in addition to our policies and guidelines above, here are some tips to help ensure your content is appropriate for advertising. Do be respectful of others, including your viewers and the people or groups that you may feature in the video. I'm pretty sure that I've always done that. Do use accurate thumbnails and metadata, regardless of the content of your video. If the title or thumbnail does not comply with the guidelines, it may not be eligible for advertising. And I don't think any of my thumbnails have been misleading. And that doesn't seem to be. Alright, let's just clear that for now and go back. So this one isn't even letting me request a review, which is interesting. Request manual review. Let's just say yes. Thanks for your feedback, even though it's not. So let me just refresh this one last time. So this one isn't even letting me do that, which is interesting. Let's go back to the community guidelines. So again, this is a situation. Whoops, that's the wrong one. Channel. So still 0 community strikes, and again, I don't think my thumbnails are misleading. They all seem to feature stuff that is relevant to the video itself. Right, like nothing here is really something that I would consider to be misleading. So it's interesting. Like I said, that's interesting. And again, it doesn't look like anything that I have here would qualify as as a violation. And again, the part that's kind of frustrating about this situation is it's not giving you an actual reason. For example, if they, if it's based off of something like religious organizations not wanting to monetize or have their ads run on something that promotes tabletop role-playing, for example, because there was that religious backlash back in the past. It's like, I understand that. It may say limited ads because that very specific group of individuals may not want their ads on there, but other companies may not have an issue with it. So that would be fine if they would explain that kind of situation. But there's nothing. Like, if it could have just said, monetization, why did this happen, and have the actual answer. Like, just say, an advertiser flagged your, tabletop role-playing games as something that they don't want to associate with, or something along those lines. But this has, absolutely zero in it that would make it inappropriate for advertising, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I mean, maybe because I said that there were a few books that I bought that I probably wouldn't have, but you would think it would also show up under something else. So again, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. My main concern is about the review process, especially where this one's not even letting me click on the option to request a review. It may be a situation where you can only do one of these at a time, but my main concern is with individuals who have smaller channels like myself, or individuals who they're not making a living off of this, but the funds that they get from advertising is something that they do rely on for other things. For example, I kind of look at the monetization, the advertising revenue that I get, as something to look forward to every 3 or 4 months. It's about $100. It's something that can really help really help just kind of get something that maybe I wanted that I couldn't normally afford. I've been able to pick up some things. I use some of my advertising revenue to pick up that Amonkhet booster box. So again, and here's the video that I age restricted myself. So I've clearly been conscientious about my content, and about the information that I give. I try not to be disparaging towards anybody or anything. In fact, I've made several videos where I've been trying to promote the idea of like community and trying to come together through this hobby instead of having it kind of divide people. So for the time being, I'm going to go back. I'm just going to keep an eye on what do we got here. I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to keep an eye on the hardcore mirror one for about an hour, so probably around 1 o'clock or 1:30. I'll check back and see if that has also been flagged as not suitable. In the meantime, I'm also going to check. I have a second account that's just like my own personal name and stuff, so it's not the channel that I upload to. And I think what I'm going to do is just try to watch one of my videos that's been flagged here on my Xbox 360, because it'll run ads, and see if it still shows an ad. Because if it does, then this may not be a big deal. Like I said, it may just be a single advertiser or advertiser group that doesn't want to associate with fantasy elements or role-playing games. So I'm going to do that, and I'll come back and we'll have a look and see what's going on. Alright, so I am back. It hasn't quite been an hour, but I did do some experimentation just to try a few different things. Number one, I started watching some of the videos on my channel, and advertisements were playing for videos other than these specific ones, the 2 ones that were flagged. I realized why I wasn't able to send the request to have the second video reviewed, so I feel kind of like an idiot, but I forgot to check the box. I was clicking on the words, I agree that, this video is suitable, and I completely forgot to check the little check mark box that's next to that. So I did check that off, and I did send it off, so they should both now be showing eligible for review. I've also sent off some feedback using the send feedback thing down here, as well as going into developers, and I believe that's where I went to. I went through and basically made a post. I don't think it's developers, but anyway, that's not really super important. I did go through and essentially make a post saying, you know, this is the situation. I went through and explained everything, the 2 videos that were flagged, the contents of those 2 videos, and how they don't violate YouTube's ad policies, at least in any way that I can fathom myself, and hoping to get some sort of response back. Now, the biggest reason I'm doing this is, actually before I get to that, I've actually gotten 20 some odd views on my Hardcore Mirror unboxing video, and that hasn't been marked as not suitable for all advertisers yet. So I'm actually going to probably go through and unlist this until Monday, when I intend to actually upload or have the video available for upload. So this was just sort of an experiment. It was sort of a test. So I'm switching this back to, I'm actually going to put it on private. You know what, I'm going to put it on unlisted. I don't want it to affect anybody that may be currently watching it. So that's what's kind of going on now. So again, the reason why I'm doing this, it isn't necessarily for my own purposes. I do have my Patreon account, which does give me regular monthly funds that I can use to purchase things basically for the purposes of making other videos with. So in terms of that, I'm not really relying on, you know, the YouTube ad revenue for that. But the reason that I wanted to make this video is the way that the review process is set up is very unfriendly or very hostile towards small channels. You know, the qualification to be able to have advertisements running on your channel right now is a minimum of 10,000 views, which I can honestly say I've definitely exceeded, with over 500,000 views since I started doing this channel, which I consider to be pretty good for only having, you know, a little over 200 videos and only 3,000 subscribers. So I consider those numbers to actually be pretty impressive and something that I'm very proud of. But there's also lots of other channels out there that are like myself or smaller that still have, you know, are still getting views and still have the ability to earn some revenue every few months. And for those individuals, they may be doing or making these channels and putting out videos that, again, don't clearly violate the terms of advertising in any obvious way, but are still having their videos flagged. But because they're not getting necessarily enough views per video, their videos may never get necessarily reviewed. And you know, the issue that caused the flag, which is an automated process, takes quite some time to be overturned, especially if it's actually 1,000 views in a 7-day period, which is asking an awful lot. Considering that there's, you know, I mean, a lot of my videos take some time to reach the, you know, 1,000 view mark, if they do. I mean, I've got a video from August 10th that's still under 1,000 views. I've got a video from August 8th that just recently exceeded 1,000 views. You know, I've got lots of videos that, you know, are around the 500 views mark, but they're still earning ad revenue, even if it's not excessive amounts. I mean, I don't want to make tons of money. I stated that in the past. I just want to do this as a hobby, but it's still nice to get some revenue for your hobby. And with smaller channels that aren't necessarily getting the precise number of views in whatever time frame that they're requiring, if it's the way that it looks and it's 1,000 views in 7 days, then these small channels who provide hours of content for YouTube that is earning advertisers, you know, revenue, it's earning YouTube ad revenue. To cut them off and not give them a voice is something that I consider to be a major issue. If the system initiated an automatic review after 7 days or 1,000 views, that would be one thing, and I'd be okay with that. You know, if it takes a week for the system to automatically, you know, scour the video and have like a recognition software that looks for, you know, violence or, you know, inappropriate content, then that's fine. I would understand that, but when you send off for a manual review and you're told that you have to reach a certain criteria, which again small channels may not be able to get to for quite some time, it's going to be very discouraging. And again, it leaves these smaller contributors who are uploading hours of content to YouTube daily that YouTube is earning ad revenue or potentially earning ad revenue off of. It's disconcerting, and it's something that I really would like to see changed. Some of the things that I've been reading in some of the threads are, that YouTube simply doesn't employ, or Google doesn't employ people to actually review these things, and that's something that, again, they should probably be looking at, because it's a big issue. And again, I'd hate to see smaller channels that don't have the luxury of getting, the amount of funds that they'd like to be or be comfortable with from a source like Patreon. I hate to see people that are just putting up things like, this is videos on Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. It's not hurting anybody. It's not promoting hate speech. It's not promoting, real world violence. It's not, it's miniatures on a piece of cardboard. They're plastic figures that just stand in one spot. They don't even physically hit each other. They just stand in a place, and you tapped a card to deal damage to, again, a fictional thing in Dungeon Command. Or I simply just talk about a few books that I have in my collection or don't have in my collection, and I don't see how that should qualify as not friendly for advertisers. So again, if there's other people out there, smaller channels like myself, that aren't even getting the option to really combat this and try to earn back the revenue that they deserve for the amount of time that they put into doing these videos, it's a big issue. And I'm hoping, if nothing else, that maybe something like this video can help raise a little bit of awareness and maybe get some people questioning YouTube as to what they're doing, and why their system is doing what it's doing, and more importantly, why it becomes so difficult for some individuals to ever be able to actually defend their videos and never get a chance to have them reviewed, just because they don't necessarily make the amount of views in the time frame, if there's a time frame, because it still looked like 1,000 views in the last 7 days, which is the wording that they use. So I'm hoping it's just 1,000 views or after 7 days. I guess I'll find out in a week's time, so if that happens, I will definitely keep you guys updated. I will also update if I hear anything back from the thread that I sent off and the contact us that I had sent off, in order to try to get some basic information. Yeah, the only thing that I have so far is the actual thing that I've sent itself. I also disabled the ad block that was on my laptop, just to help out with this. I'm going to try to put it back on if I can. But anyway, just because I don't really like the pop-ups or stuff like that. But then again, I may just leave it off and try to help other channels. So I think what I'm going to start doing is, over the next few days, I'm just going to find some smaller channels that are dealing with, role-playing games, stuff like that. Watch their videos, make sure I watch their ads all the way through, and try to help them out. And again, hopefully we can get to the bottom of what's going on here with this system and try to get it fixed. Like I said, I totally agree with the idea that advertising needs to be a little more conscientious on YouTube. There are videos that were getting advertising that really honestly shouldn't have had it. Videos that promote actual basically hate speech and discrimination against minority groups, or things along those lines, or depicting violence. And again, I don't like any of that, and I agree that, again, for stuff like that, there needs to be some checks and balances put in place. But when you're looking at a channel that's talking about board games and a tabletop game that you play using books, dice, a pencil, and something that's designed to get friends together, it's a bit discouraging. And again, I'll be okay with the having the Patreon and stuff like that. I'm not worried about it for myself, but I do want to see this change for other channels that may not have that luxury. So again, thank you guys very much for watching. Please comment below anything that can help this video get viewed, basically, and something that can help hopefully bring this issue to people's attention, to get people talking about it, and hopefully again try to find a way to fix this so that it's something that can be done the right way when it comes to advertising, and something that can allow small channels the ability to defend themselves if their videos in no way, shape, or form violate the advertising guidelines. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I really appreciate anything you can do to help me out in this situation, and more importantly, help out other channels as well. You know, I'm not worried about myself. I just want to see other smaller channels get the opportunity to earn the revenue that they deserve for the amount of work that they put into, you know, things, especially along these lines. That's, you know, it's a harmless game that's just meant to be fun with friends. So again, thank you guys very much for watching. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.